Boy and Dog, Part 4. Frederick yawns, exposing huge teeth. Elsie, Wings, and the other birds quickly rise with alarm. Spark also sees Frederick's teeth, seeks escape. Frederick in the open space plops down, almost squashing Proud Cub, who quickly moves. Frederick says, "Oh, why do I bother arguing with you?" He rolls onto his back with a satisfied grunt. "I'm going to exercise my extraordinary body." He stretches with groans of contentment. Among the trees, Spark and Chipper start to creep away, but Spark steps on a fallen tree branch, making a loud noise. Up in the tree branches, Elsie, startled, spies Spark and Chipper below and says, "What is that?" She flies down for a closer look. Spark presses himself behind the tree even harder. In the open space, Frederick looks around and says, "Where?" He investigates the area and discovers Spark. "It must be some new kind of animal." Curious, he sits on his haunches and says to Spark, "What are you?" Spark says, I. Irritably, Frederick points to his own throat and says, "Come now, use your throat. Your throat!" Spark says, I am. Yes. Spark, a boy. I am a boy." "Ah, a boy. A new creature is among us." To Elsie he says, "Too puny for hunting." Elsie flies down then and sees Chipper, and she says, "What is that beside you?" Frederick actively sniffs Chipper. Spark says, This is my dog, Chip, a friend." Spark and Chipper fidget, trying to avoid Frederick's nose, while the cubs frisk playfully around them. Spark gradually forgets his fear, but Chipper is irritated by all this. Frederick loses interest, lies down, stretching as he talks. "Do you live in our woods?" Spark says, "Oh no, we're searching for the land of happiness, a special place where my papa might be." Frederick sits up, intrigued. "A special place? He rises. "Come, let me show you the most special place of all." Frederick leads them through the woods. Elsie quietly follows. Following Frederick, Spark and Chipper emerge from the bushes to come upon a lovely space with a beautiful brook at its center, and Spark says, "Oh." He drops to his knees and runs his hands through the water. Frederick says, "There, you see, this is surely special." And he stares, traumatized, mesmerized, into the water, transfixed by the sight of his own reflection. Spark says, "This is true special, certain." A loud explosion shatters the quiet as something whizzes past Spark's ear. He grabs Chipper, ducks his head, and looks around and says, "What was that?" Elsie flies in and flutters before Frederick. "Quick, Frederick, a large animal, like the boy, is coming. It has a shiny something under its wing. I know it's danger. Hide." Frederick says, "Hide? I hide from nothing. Where is this creature?" Spark jumps up. "Frederick, please, this may be a hunter from my land." Elsie anxiously flies upward. Spark says, "He could harm the cubs, all of us." Elsie urgently flies down again. "It's coming closer." Chipper starts to bark. Spark instantly grabs his mouth and says to Frederick, "Please, please, Frederick." Frederick considers for a moment, then reluctantly pads to some thick bushes and calls to the cubs, "Youngsters, follow me." But Elsie gets caught in a branch, and Frederick says, "I will free her," and he does. And Elsie says, "Thank you, Frederick." Spark says, "Quick, let's hide." They hide in the bushes. Footsteps are heard. Horrified, Spark sees Frederick about to leap out. He shoves Frederick down and simultaneously leaps up, wildly waving his arms. "Oh, hey there! I heard a shot!" He jumps away from the bushes, smiling and yelling, desperate to divert the hunter's attention away from his friends. The startled hunter sees Spark and says, "That was me. You were over there?" His rifle points in the direction from where Spark had appeared. Trembling, Spark walks towards the hunter. "Yes, certain. I was looking for my pesky dog. You see him?" Hunter says, "No. Just saw bushes moving and thought I'd found some game." Lowers his rifle slightly and says, "You're a lucky fella. I was about to take another shot." Spark laughs nervously. "Whew, fearful close, huh? But there's no good hunting round hereabouts." He watches the hunter warily. "Only game round here is me, huh? Scouting that rascal of a dog." The hunter says, "You do well to train that mutt when you find him. Take control." Spark hastily turns away from his friend's hiding place. "That's certain. I'd best search somewhere else for that scamp." He attempts to put anger in his voice as he screeches, "Chip! Chipper!" The hunter speculatively glances back at the hiding place. Spark sees this. He explodes with an ear-splitting scream, grabs a stick and beats furiously at the bushes. "Chipper, you come out this minute! Come out! Hear?" The startled hunter jerks around. His gun fires. In the hiding place, crashing bushes, and a grunt comes from the bushes. Then a bloody Frederick charges out. The hunter's mouth drops open. Elsie rockets towards the hunter's eyes. The hunter tosses his gun and flees. Frederick falters, then sinks to his haunches. Elsie flies back in distress while Spark rushes to Frederick, proud cub following. Spark says, "Frederick!" Frederick slumps down on his side. Spark examines him. "Oh, you were only grazed near the shoulder." Frederick attempts to lick his wound, but it's out of reach. As Spark searches for healing herbs, he looks at Elsie with astonishment. "Elsie, you were so fearsome." She flaps her wings and says placidly, "It was needed." Spark approaches Frederick with the herbs. "My grandma uses these for Grandpa and me for hurts." Frederick draws back with difficulty. "What are you doing? How do you think I've made do all my years, young boy? I heal myself. I was born with this knowledge." Spark says, "Frederick, you can't even reach your wound." Spark wets the greens and moves to Frederick, who is about to object, but then allows Spark to apply them to the gash. Frederick tries to peer over his shoulder again. "My fur, is it scraggly?" Spark says, "It will be beautiful again, sure, in no time." Frederick struggles to his feet, but Spark says, "Let's stake here a bit, Frederick. You can rest." This powerful body needs no rest." He stumbles slightly, then carefully walks forward. Elsie says, "I will see if all is safe." She flies upward, then calls, "Yes, the big animal boy is gone." Frederick says, "Come now, follow me." He leads them back to their original place. Elsie flies down to get a better look at Frederick. "Good heavens, Frederick, look at you." He says, "It's nothing." Spark says to Elsie, "You saw. He protected us. He was so brave." Frederick grumbles, Elsie says, "Well, of course he was." She flies up to join her friends. Frederick says, "Just look at my fur. Patchy, scruffy." He feverishly licks his coat. After a time, Spark says, "Since you all live together in the woods, why aren't you friends?" From the tree branches, Wings spreads her wings wide, agitated, peers down at Spark. "Friends? He cares nothing for our feelings. She darts down to emphasize her point and gets in Frederick's face, and she continues, constant yowling. We can't hear ourselves sing. Frederick says, and what about your horrible screeching? Scaring my supper away. And sleeping? Impossible. Then Feather zooms down, thrashing her wings menacingly. How dare you call our singing screeching? Frederick says, well, it pains my ears for one thing. Wings and Feather violently beat their wings, shrilly squawking in his face, just short of attacking him. Wings says, you are nothing but Feather helps out, a lion. Yes, a disagreeable, cranky old lion. Frederick rises regally and thunders a ferocious sound, glaring at the birds. Feather and Wings hastily retreat. Frederick says, enough. Leave me in peace. Feather bumps into a tree branch as the disgruntled birds hastily fly upward. Elsie looks down fondly at Frederick and says, he's very gentle with the cubs. Noticing Spark, Elsie flies down again and perches on a low branch and says, Spark, you were so brave back there. Frederick says, as brave as my cubs. Spark shyly nods his thanks and then says, well, we'd best be going. We must find my papa in the land of happiness. Elsie hovers near Frederick. You will be our friend forever, Spark. You saved us. Spark says, oh no, we did it together. Chipper suddenly hops up, bursts into song, and prances on his hind legs, his back to us, and says, strong and weak, power when they meet. Spark is astonished. Chipper, you spoke. What did you say? Chipper frisks gaily and says, strong and weak, power when they meet. Spark, my friend, you can talk. We can talk together. Why haven't you spoken before? Chipper cavorts merrily and pants at Spark. All right, silly, since you insist on being this way, I'll make our plans without you. Chipper happily barks in agreement.